Welcome, everyone. This is Lindsay Cox with the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Thank you for joining us today for Build to Scale Full Application Informational Webinar. As I said at the top, I'm Lindsay, and I am joined by my colleague Emily. Emily, I'll let you do an intro, and then I will do mine.
Hi, everybody. My name is Emily Miller. I'm the Deputy Director for the Office of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Really delighted to have you all with us today and excited to explain some more about the Build to Scale program.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily, and thanks again for joining us, everyone. So just as a reminder, I'd like to kick off the webinars and calls with this. Build to Scale, the goal of our program is to build regional economies through scalable startups. No, we're here to talk about the full application today, so I would just challenge you to really keep that tagline in mind as you are designing and building your applications to try and address this ultimate goal. So today on the webinar, we are going to cover a few different topics. We're going to start out with the numbers, and that just means where we landed with submissions, then go into technical requirements, followed by detailed information on the application, as well as scoring, and then next steps. And we also have a couple of other pieces of information regarding other funding opportunities from our sister agencies as well that we'll get to at the end. So first up, the numbers. Where did we end up landing with submissions for the Build to Scale program? Well, I'm very excited to say that we did end up with 609 total concept proposal submissions, which is great. And so thank you everyone for turning in your concept proposal submission. As you who have been engaged with the program previously may know, this is the first year we've done this two-phased approach. So we were excited to see that much interest right off the top. Do have the total numbers reported out there on the bottom, with Venture Challenge receiving the most, followed by Capital and Industry. But again, just really great demand for the Build to Scale program overall, as well as all three of our challenges. So at this point, you all should have received your encourage or discourage notification. And so out of that 609, where did we land? And we landed with 138 encourages and 471 discourages. So you'll note that that encourage pool makes up a little less than 25%. It's close to around 22% of total concept proposals did receive that encourage recommendation. I will take this time to remind everyone, though, that regardless of your encourage or discourage, you are still eligible to submit a full application and move forward if you elect to do so. I also wanted to take this time to review where we are budgetarily with these three challenges. So it's laid out in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, but this is a good time to review. We do have up to 26 million for the Venture Challenge, up to 4 for the Industry Challenge, and up to 5 million for the Capital Challenge. So what all does that mean? So we had about 130, we actually did have 138 encourages. We've got this much funding pool. We also have the discourages who are still eligible to apply. At the end of the day, we anticipate that we will fund approximately 60 proposals across the spectrum of venture, industry, and capital. So approximately 60 overall. So if you take our starting number of 609, we are expecting to fund around 10%. Why I cannot give you a definitive number is because it really does just depend on budgetary shakeouts as far as how the applications we take in, how much is requested, and then where that aligns in that funding pool. But approximately 60 is the number we think we will be hitting. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Emily, who is going to review the technical requirements of the Build to Scale program. Emily?
Awesome. Thank you, Lindsay. Yeah, we wanted to over communicate some of the technical requirements. As you have realized, based on this two-phased approach, the concept proposal phase was a very light lift. So it was fairly easy to submit, and we definitely designed it that way. But the full application definitely has more nuances to navigate with regards to the technical requirements. So I have the job of going over some of these more boring administrative details, but what we don't want to see happen is for a really great proposal to get knocked out by a technical mistake or by an omission. So we wanted to walk through a few of these requirements, and I just want to state kind of upfront that it remains that the notice of funding opportunity is still the North Star. So if you do have a question regarding technical requirements, all of the details can be found in that document. So today we're just going to give you kind of a quick snapshot and quick overview. So as part of the concept proposal process, we did require that you at least register with SAM.gov and provide us with confirmation of that. So the good news is that in this kind of broad overlay of our application systems, you're already well over halfway into that process. So that is the great news. But again, we do want to kind of reiterate here that this full process can take 23 days or more business days to complete and navigate. So do take this seriously. We are stewards and caretakers of taxpayer dollars. So these systems exist for a reason. This is to really ensure that only organizations in good standing with the government can move forward in our process. And this is something that we don't have the ability to waive. So just ensure that you're paying close attention to all of the kind of administrative back-end submission requirements for the full application. And before we get too much further, we wanted to address this question of should I even register? Am I an eligible entity? I'll start off by saying that we reiterate this quite a bit. This program is not for individual businesses or entrepreneurs. You might have seen things like capital and venture in some of our branding, and so there are sometimes misconceptions that this is a program for individual entrepreneurs. It is not. What we are trying to do with Build to Scale really happens at the ecosystem level, at the community level. And so these organizations are really our key stakeholders. The things like the states, the cities, the nonprofits, things like that. I will call your attention to where there's a little flag, public-private partnerships and economic development organizations. So there are instances in which private sector leaders can apply. The public-private partnership is one really great example. So if you are in a partnership with a public sector entity, that is one way that you could become an eligible entity. That will require documentation, things like a memorandum of understanding between the parties. So we're not going to get into the intense details there, but you can find that information in both the Notice of Funding Opportunity and our frequently asked questions as well. And the second I want to draw attention to is the Economic Development Organization. Some organizations may qualify as an EDO if you have economic development kind of at the heart of your mission and purpose. So to demonstrate eligibility for that, we often look to the organization's articles of incorporation, the charter, the resolutions, and the bylaws. So I think the main thing to hit home here is that if you're unsure whether you're eligible or where you fit kind of on this broad spectrum of organizations, get in touch with us. Get in touch with your regional representative or get in touch with us here at OIE.
Thanks, Emily. And I think another important thing to highlight on that public-private partnership is, again, reiterating that public piece. And so if you are a private organization who is thinking that you would partner with a nonprofit, it does, in fact, need to be a public entity. So not a nonprofit in that case, but in fact, a public entity that you would be doing that partnership with. Just wanted to shout that out as well.
Exactly. All right. So the last thing that we will cover here is to really please use Appendix D in the NOFO as a resource. I know that the Notice of Funding Opportunity itself can get confusing. It's a long document. There are a lot of requirements kind of buried in there, but we have created a chart that is used to simplify the requirements and what we expect for the type of eligible entity that you are. So please double check the Appendix D. We've got a flag here next to our SPOC, our single point of contact, that often catches people off guard. Please double check the latest link that we provide in the NOFO to see that if your state participates. If your state does participate in the single point of contact, you do have to submit the proper documentation. Really just go through this with a fine-tooth comb. I'll also shout out that if you are applying with co-applicants, there are very specific requirements that you can see in these columns, forms that the actual co-applicant also must submit as part of a full application. So again, check out Appendix D. It is a very detailed chart and will help you navigate these sometimes arduous technical requirements.
Thanks so much, Emily. So next up, I'm going to review some of the information relevant to the full application. So to kick us off, the link to access the Grants.gov portal, where you will do the actual uploading of all of those things Emily just talked about, as well as you'll recall you saw this on that little flow chart of all the places you need to be registered. Well, Grants.gov is one of those places. And so you receive the link in your encourage or discourage letter. That is the only place the link is available, and that is because the submission of the concept proposal was a mandatory step, so you received that information as a result of your submission. So this will not be available on our website. If you lost your letter, get back in contact with us, but hopefully you saved it and you have that information at ready. So when you actually click on the link, this is what it is going to look like. You'll see the apply button up there as well as the 3 challenges listed. One of the features I really like of this is the ability to preview the packages. So you'll notice there's next to the challenge, there's preview and apply. If you click into the preview, you will actually see those mandatory forms listed as well as that optional attachment section. So for the mandatory forms, those again were contained in that big list of documentation. You'll be able to complete those there. And then there's the additional attachments portal where you can upload the additional items we requested or the additional items that you'll be providing. So just wanted to take a moment to go over that. We won't go over grants.gov any more in depth, but wanted to click on that to show you guys some familiarity. We do highly encourage you do not wait until the last minute. So register, get on there, get comfortable with uploading and all of that well before the June 14th deadline. So next up, the full application, what is required? We've said it before and we're going to say it again. All the information is available in the Notice of Funding Opportunity, but we will go through it in brief here. So first off, this was taken directly out of that NOFO, which is just a listing of the documents that you'll be compiling and submitting. Today I'm going to review the project narrative, the budget narrative and staffing plan, the matching share commitment letters, and that state local government support if applicable. Those others are the standard forms. You'll notice they also relate to the grants.gov submission, and you should be able to easily access those. So first off, the project narrative. Did want to highlight right off the bat here that there is a limit of 10 pages on the project narrative. We also have specific requirements around font size. So please ensure that you are paying attention to that as you are composing that. If you were to submit over 10 pages, we cannot review anything over 10 pages. So would hate for some of your important material to get lost because you didn't follow technical requirements in the project narrative submission or you submitted over the 10-page limit. So please keep that 10-page limit and those specifications in mind. So what makes a full application competitive? What sets a project narrative apart? We've listed out a few things here that we think are really central to developing a good project narrative within your full application. So be clear and concise, have a defined strategic gap, and demonstrate what that gap is. So really get in there and talk to us about the strategic gap and how you are going to fill it with your proposed project. Include well-defined partnerships and the roles of those partnerships. So you had an opportunity in your concept proposal to tell us who your partners were going to be. Make sure in your full project narrative that you're defining what those partnerships look like and really speaking to how the partners are going to play within your proposed project. Include key milestones and dates. Identify an achievable scope of work, and demonstrate the long-term potential impact of your project. So you can describe that to us, but you should also be including metrics of what long-term success looks like for your project. So next up, we'll cover the budget narrative and staffing plan. Now on this, we do have a recommended limit of 4 pages. We have also, new for 2020, have included a template, which is optional. You do not have to use it, but we do find the template to be helpful, particularly if you have never developed a budget narrative and staffing plan before, to help guide you. So let's get into the details of that budget narrative and staffing plan. Within that, you should be identifying and justifying how each line item of the budget will be used to support the project. The staffing plan should contain all positions that are going to be charged to the award, including those that you're developing. So if you're creating a new position within this project, then you should be listing that as well. Line items should clearly distinguish between federal and match shares, and budget categories should match those of the SF 424A, which is one of those standard government forms that are required. Itemized valuation for in-kind funds should also be provided, as well as how you arrived at that evaluation, which I think is really important. So really, everything should tie together here. Your budget categories should match the standard government categories. The budget narrative should flow really cleanly with your project narrative. So if you're saying that you're going to do work in the project narrative, we should see that reflected within the staffing positions or within the contract requests or whatever it may be within the budget narrative. But those should really tie together. And it's all part of submitting a really good, successful, cohesive application. So next up, we're going to cover match commitment letters. As a reminder, match can be cash, in-kind, or a combination. And for each of the 3 challenges, you are required to have that 1-to-1 match. So for every dollar of federal money, there needs to be a dollar of match also available. I say dollar of match, a dollar of cash, dollar of in-kind, dollar of a combination of the 2 of them. So what does match and match commitment letters look like? Match has to be committed, available, and unencumbered. It also needs to be directly connected to the project. So if you are going to be claiming, for example, some legal fee valuation, we should also see legal fees reflected as a component of your project, right? So it's tying those 2 things together. If you are submitting for in-kind, you should show how the valuation was derived. Signed commitment letters are required. We do go into detail within the NOFO of what a match commitment letter looks like, but again, I want to highlight that it does need to be signed, and that should be coming from an authorized signer of whoever is providing that match commitment. If it is your own organization, if you have dollars in the bank that you will be allocating to this project, then you will also be submitting a match letter for that, and it'll come on your stationery with your signature. And again, highlighting at the bottom, it should be traceable to the budget narrative, right? So the budget narrative, the match, the government form SF424A, all of those things should match each other and should all total to the same. So again, just want to highlight that as we go through this. And last but not least, I'm going to talk briefly about government support. So government support is a requirement to submit unless you are a government entity, in which case you do not have to submit that government support, and it needs to be related to the project service area. So what does that mean? If you, we do go into details of this in the notice of funding opportunity, but for the area that you will be serving, we ask for your government support letter to be tied to that, right? So could be a mayor's office, could be a state representative of the area providing that. We do not accept federal for the service area. Now you are welcome to submit federal letters of support as supplementary material, but they cannot be your sole government support. That needs to come from the area related to the project service area. So just wanted to go over that in brief. Again, please see the NOFO and the FAQ document if you have further questions about what government support looks like. And with that, I am going to turn it back over to Emily, who is going to go over review criteria.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay. So the good news here, the review criteria should look the exact same as what you saw for the concept proposal. So these have not changed. They are being used across both the concept proposal and the full application. 7 equally weighted categories, and you can find these as well in section E of the funding opportunity. So let's just do a quick overview of these review criteria. So there are 7 equally weighted, so we'll take these in 2 slides. They should look familiar. Really, what we want to see in these applications is that, the challenge and opportunity is authentic and aligned, that the needs and the challenges facing your community are clear, and that your proposed solution is in alignment with those community needs. We want to ensure that your organization is uniquely suited to solve these challenges, and that also it's an achievable solution, right? And that substantial progress can be made. So there is an element of, great, you've identified the challenge and the opportunity, but is this a feasible project to see through? And then for number 3 and 4, we really care about the who. So the target participants that you're trying to reach. We want to understand which specific stakeholder group are you trying to reach through your proposed solution, and most importantly, who your partners are. As we've mentioned throughout this application process, the Build to Scale program is really done at the ecosystem and at the community level. What we don't want to see is an individual organization that is alone or siloed trying to tackle a really big community problem. You need partners. You need really thoughtful stakeholders involved in your project for it to be successful. So that is really what we're looking for. Are these clearly identified? Are they realistic? And are they authentic to the region, and are they being leveraged effectively? And for the last 3, I know Lindsay has hit the budget and the team component pretty hard, but the budget is really important. It's the nuts and bolts of how you're going to accomplish your scope of work. We want to see that you've got the human capital and the talent on your team to really execute this proposal. Everybody has a good idea, but it really comes down to the execution. So that's really what we want to see. How are you going to accomplish this project? And how is your team uniquely suited to do it? And then for the last 2, I think simply because these are the last 2 criteria, sometimes they get a little bit overlooked, but I can't overstate their importance. Impacts, this is at the meat of what we care about, the outcomes of your project. How are you measuring them? Are they realistic? Are they achievable? We want to know within, the best bounds of what you can provide us that you're going to be able to reach these impacts in your community. So we really ask that you be thoughtful about what you will achieve and how you'll go about doing it. And last but not least is sustainability. I think this one tends to get overlooked, but it's incredibly important. We want to know that this project will continue post-award. That yes, we are here to fund it for the first 3 years, in addition to your matching commitment. But we really want this to continue onward without federal help. So we want to make sure that you've got the right partners, you've got the right plan, and that's really what this sustainability piece is talking to.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Emily. And I think a great practice for everybody could be to, write out your project narrative and then go through it yourself from the perspective of these review criteria and ask yourself if you think that you're effectively addressing all 7 of these really well within your full application. Awesome. So what's next for Build to Scale? Next steps. So we are here with the full webinar. The application window is going to remain open until June 14th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. But I will not overemphasize. I cannot overemphasize this enough. Please do not wait until the last minute to submit. So while it is open until 11:59, if you can submit earlier than that, that is great. Please get it in as soon as you feel confident that you're able to, and make sure that you're registered with all those systems Emily went over so that your submission can be successfully received by the deadline. So following the submission of those, we'll be using the timeline of July to September to do reviews as well as processing. And then we anticipate making an announcement of the 2020 Build to Scale grantees in the fall. So in fall of 2020, which is actually just right around the corner, we'll be making those announcements. So before we wrapped up today, I did want to take a couple minutes to highlight some additional funding opportunities that have come in through another organization that we do a lot of collaborating with, the Small Business Administration. We asked them if they had any good grant opportunities open or coming up, and they sent us over this listing. So we are not the right contact for these, SBA is, but we did want to highlight them so you could see if your program would potentially be a fit for any of these. So that listing is available on the screen. If you're viewing this webinar, feel free to pause and jot down these names and then do some Googling and go back to them and again see if your group might be a fit. And with that, I want to thank you guys for tuning into this. I do hope it was helpful. If you have follow-up questions, first check out the NOFO, then check out the FAQs, then feel free to get in contact with us. That link you see is a web link, and it will show you the contact for your area as well as for our office. And Emily, thank you for joining me today. Just for everybody's reference, Emily and I are recording this separately from our homes due to COVID-19. So thanks, Emily.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Everybody have a great day.